Maya watched through her scope as the armed man aimed at the fallen guard. Her sergeant's orders echoed in her mind, "Just watch, don't shoot." But as the killer raised his weapon, Maya's finger found the trigger. One breath. One heartbeat. One impossible shot across 1,000 yards that would either save lives or end her military career forever. It started 3 weeks ago when Maya Rodriguez arrived at Fort Campbell for sniper training. She was 19 years old, fresh out of basic training, with big dreams and bigger doubts. Growing up in a small town in Texas, she had always been good with a rifle. Her grandfather taught her to hunt when she was 12, and by 16 she could hit a deer at 300 yards without thinking twice about it. But military sniping was different. This wasn't about hunting animals for food. This was about precision under pressure, about making shots that could save lives or end them. Maya wasn't sure she was ready for that kind of responsibility. The other soldiers in her training group had been doing this for years. Most of them were men in their 20s and 30s who had already seen combat. They looked at Maya like she was just a kid playing soldier, and maybe they were right. She felt small and young compared to them. Her instructor was Sergeant First Class Daniel Cooper, a quiet man with tired eyes who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan. He was known for being tough but fair, and for turning ordinary soldiers into deadly accurate snipers. When he first saw Maya's file, he wasn't impressed. "Another farm girl who thinks she can shoot," he told his assistant. "Give her 2 weeks and she'll be crying to go back to filing papers." But Maya surprised him. On her first day at the range, she hit targets that some of the veteran soldiers missed. Her breathing was natural, her trigger control was smooth, and she had an instinct for reading wind and distance that couldn't be taught. "Maybe I was wrong about you," Sergeant Cooper admitted after her first week. "You've got natural talent. But talent isn't enough out there. When bullets are flying and your friends are dying, can you still make the shot that matters?" Maya didn't know the answer to that question. She hoped she would never have to find out. The training was hard. They woke up at 5 in the morning and spent 12 hours a day learning everything about long-range shooting. How to read the wind by watching grass move. How to calculate distance using landmarks. How to control their breathing so their heartbeat wouldn't shake the rifle. How to wait for hours without moving even when their muscles screamed in pain. Maya learned about different types of ammunition, about how humidity and temperature affected bullet flight, about how to camouflage herself so completely that she became invisible. She learned to think like a hunter and move like a ghost. But the hardest part wasn't the physical training. It was the mental preparation. Learning to kill another human being wasn't something that came naturally to most people, and the instructor spent a lot of time helping the students understand what they were training for. "A sniper's job isn't just to kill," Sergeant Cooper explained one day. "Sometimes your job is to watch and report. Sometimes it's to provide cover for your team. Sometimes it's to take out a specific target to save dozens of lives. But whatever your job is, you have to be ready to do it without hesitation." Maya struggled with this part. She could hit any target they put in front of her, but the thought of actually shooting another person made her stomach turn. She had nightmares about it, dreams where she pulled the trigger and saw someone's father or son fall down and never get up. Her roommate was Jennifer Park, a 24-year-old from California who had already served in Iraq. Jennifer noticed that Maya wasn't sleeping well and tried to help. "It's normal to feel this way," Jennifer told her one night. "Anyone who doesn't struggle with it is probably a psychopath. The fact that you're worried about it means you're a good person. But how do you deal with it? How do you actually do it when the time comes?" Jennifer was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, "You remember why you're doing it. You remember that sometimes taking one life can save many lives. And you trust that your commanders are sending you after people who deserve it." Maya wanted to believe that, but she still had doubts. What if she froze when it mattered? What if she couldn't pull the trigger when lives depended on it? 3 weeks into training they were told about a special exercise. A group of instructors from other bases were coming to observe their progress and see how the new training methods were working. It was supposed to be just a demonstration, a chance for the students to show what they had learned. The exercise was set up like a real mission. There was a mock village built on the base with buildings and streets that looked like something you might find in Afghanistan or Iraq. Hidden throughout the village were targets that represented enemy fighters, and the sniper students were supposed to take observation positions and call out what they saw. "Remember," Sergeant Cooper told them before they started, "this is just an observation exercise. You're not here to shoot. You're here to watch and report. Save the shooting for the range." Maya was paired with Jennifer and given a position on a hill overlooking the village. They carried their rifles, but the weapons weren't loaded. This was supposed to be about surveillance, not marksmanship. They set up their position carefully, using camouflage netting to hide themselves from the instructors who would be playing the role of enemy soldiers. Through her scope, Maya could see the entire village spread out below them. It was peaceful and quiet, almost beautiful in the morning sunlight. "Contact 2 o'clock, Jennifer whispered into her radio. 3 subjects moving between buildings Alpha and Bravo. Maya adjusted her scope and saw them too. Instructors wearing different uniforms, pretending to be enemy fighters. This was just practice, just a game, but her heart was still beating fast. Through the scope, everything looked so real. They watched for 2 hours, calling in movements and positions. Maya was getting comfortable with the routine when everything suddenly changed. A real emergency call came over the radio. This wasn't part of the exercise. There had been a security breach at the ammunition depot on the other side of the base. Armed intruders had somehow gotten onto the base and were trying to steal military weapons. "All units, this is not a drill," came the voice over the radio. "We have actual hostile forces on base. Sniper teams, maintain positions and provide overwatch." Maya felt her blood turn cold. This was real. There were actual bad guys with guns somewhere on the base, and suddenly she and Jennifer weren't just students anymore. They were soldiers with a job to do. "Maya, can you see the depot from here?" Jennifer asked, scanning with her binoculars. Maya adjusted her scope and looked toward the ammunition depot. It was far away, maybe 800 yards, but she could see vehicles parked outside that weren't supposed to be there. As she watched, she saw men in black clothing moving around the building. "I count 4 subjects," she reported. "They're loading something into a truck." Through her earpiece, she could hear radio chatter from all over the base. Military police were responding, but they were still several minutes away. The intruders would be gone before help arrived. That's when Maya saw something that made her heart stop. One of the men in black was carrying something that looked like a rocket launcher. If they escaped with military weapons like that, who knew what kind of damage they could do in the outside world? "Jennifer, do you see that? The guy by the truck." "I see him." "Is that what I think it is?" Before Jennifer could answer, the situation got worse. A security guard appeared around the corner of the building, probably trying to stop the theft. One of the intruders raised his rifle and Maya knew the guard was about to be killed. "Shots fired at the depot," came a panicked voice over the radio. "Officer down." "Repeat, officer down." Maya watched through her scope as the guard fell. She felt sick to her stomach, but she also felt something else. Anger. These weren't soldiers fighting for their country. These were criminals who had just murdered a good man doing his job. "Maya, what's the distance?" Jennifer asked urgently. Maya checked her rangefinder. 1,050 yards. "Too far. We don't have a shot from here." But Maya was studying the wind, calculating angles, remembering everything Sergeant Cooper had taught her. The distance was extreme, farther than anything she had attempted in training. But it wasn't impossible. "Load your rifle," she told Jennifer. "Maya, we can't. Sergeant Cooper said this was observation only. We don't have authorization to engage." "That guard had a family," Maya said quietly. "And these guys are getting away with enough weapons to hurt a lot of innocent people." She could see the intruders finishing their loading. In another minute they would be driving away. The military police wouldn't catch them in time. This was the only chance to stop them. Maya loaded her rifle with hands that weren't shaking anymore. Through the scope she could see the man with the rocket launcher clearly. He was tall and thin, wearing a black mask over his face. He was directing the others, clearly the leader of the group. "Maya, don't do this," Jennifer whispered. "The range is too extreme. You might miss and hit something else." "I won't miss." Maya had never been more certain of anything in her life. She controlled her breathing, felt her heartbeat slow down, and placed her finger on the trigger. The wind was light, blowing from the east at about 5 miles per hour. She adjusted her aim slightly to compensate. Through the scope, the target looked huge even though he was more than half a mile away. Maya could see every detail of his movements as he gestured to his team. She could see the rocket launcher in his hands, could imagine the destruction it could cause if it fell into the wrong hands. "Control, this is Overwatch 2, Jennifer said into her radio. "We have eyes on the depot. Requesting permission to engage." Static crackled for several seconds. Then Sergeant Cooper's voice came through. "Overwatch 2 negative. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Distance is too extreme." Maya heard the words, but she also heard something else. She heard the security guard's wife crying when she found out her husband was dead. She heard news reports about terrorists using stolen military weapons to attack innocent people. She heard her grandfather's voice from years ago. "Sometimes, little girl, doing the right thing means breaking the rules." She squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked against her shoulder and the sound echoed across the base like thunder. Through her scope, Maya watched the bullet fly for what seemed like forever. Time moved in slow motion as the small piece of metal traveled more than 1,000 yards at over 2,000 feet per second. The man with the rocket launcher spun around and fell. The weapon flew from his hands and clattered on the ground. His teammates started shouting and looking around frantically, trying to figure out where the shot had come from. "Holy shit," Jennifer whispered. "You actually hit him." Maya was already working the bolt on her rifle, chambering another round. But it wasn't necessary. The other intruders panicked when their leader went down. They abandoned their truck and ran toward the fence line, leaving behind the stolen weapons. Within minutes, military police arrived and arrested the surviving intruders. Medics rushed to help the wounded man who was still alive but badly hurt. The stolen weapons were recovered, including the rocket launcher that could have killed dozens of people. Maya and Jennifer were ordered to report to headquarters immediately. As they walked down the hill, Maya's hands finally started shaking. She had just shot another human being. The training had prepared her for a lot of things but not for how it would actually feel. "You saved lives today," Jennifer told her. "That guard might have been the first person they killed, but he wouldn't have been the last." At headquarters there was chaos. Officers were running around, radios were crackling with reports, and everyone was trying to figure out exactly what had happened. When Maya and Jennifer walked in, the room went quiet. Sergeant Cooper was standing next to a large map of the base. When he saw them, his expression was unreadable. "Rodriguez," he said. "Did you take that shot?" "Yes, Sergeant." "After I specifically told you not to engage?" "Yes, Sergeant." Sergeant Cooper stared at her for a long moment. Maya expected him to start yelling, to tell her she was kicked out of the program, maybe even court-martialed for disobeying orders. Instead, he walked over to a computer and pulled up some data. The rangefinder says 1,023 yards. The ballistics computer confirms the shot. Environmental conditions were challenging but not impossible. He turned back to Maya. "Rodriguez, that shot just broke the base record for longest confirmed hit by a student. The previous record was 840 yards. The room was completely silent. Maya didn't know what to say. "However," Sergeant Cooper continued, "you directly disobeyed orders. In a real combat situation, that kind of behavior could get people killed." "I understand, Sergeant. But people were going to get killed anyway if those weapons had been stolen. That wasn't your call to make." Maya stood straighter. "With respect, Sergeant, yes it was. I'm a soldier. When I see innocent people in danger and I have the ability to help them, it is my call." Sergeant Cooper studied her face for a long time. Finally he said, "Rodriguez, you're either going to be the best sniper I've ever trained, or you're going to get yourself killed being too brave for your own good." "Maybe both, Sergeant." For the first time since Maya had known him, Sergeant Cooper smiled. "Maybe both. But today you did good. That security guard is in the hospital, but he's alive because you acted fast. The stolen weapons are back where they belong because you made an impossible shot under pressure. And 3 terrorists are in custody because you had the guts to pull the trigger when it mattered." Over the next few days, news of Maya's shot spread throughout the base and beyond. Military snipers from other units came to meet the 19-year-old girl who had made a 1,000-yard shot on her first real mission. Some of them had been snipers for years and had never attempted a shot that difficult. But Maya didn't feel like celebrating. She kept thinking about the man she had shot, wondering if he had a family, wondering if there had been another way to stop him. Jennifer told her that was normal, that good snipers always question their actions. "The day you stop caring about the people you shoot is the day you should find another job," she said. A week later, Maya received new orders. She was being transferred to an advanced sniper school, where she would train with the best marksmen in the military. Her instructor said she had potential to become one of the elite, the kind of sniper who could change the outcome of entire battles with a single shot. On her last day at Fort Campbell, Sergeant Cooper pulled her aside. "Rodriguez, I want you to remember something. Today you're famous for making a great shot. But that's not what makes you special." "What do you mean, Sergeant?" "You made that shot because you cared about people you didn't even know. You risked your career to save strangers. That's what makes you dangerous to our enemies and valuable to our country." Maya nodded, understanding what he meant. Technical skill could be taught, but character couldn't be. The willingness to risk everything for others was something that came from inside, something that couldn't be learned in any training program. As she packed her belongings, Maya thought about the road ahead. She knew there would be more difficult shots, more impossible decisions, more moments when she would have to choose between following orders and following her conscience. But she also knew that her grandfather would be proud of her. He had taught her to shoot, but more importantly, he had taught her to care about other people. He had taught her that sometimes doing the right thing meant taking risks, even when you were scared. Maya Rodriguez left Fort Campbell as the holder of the base record for longest shot by a student. But more than that, she left as a soldier who had proven she could be trusted to make the hard choices when lives were on the line. The 1,000-yard shot had changed her life, but it was just the beginning. Ahead of her lay a career filled with danger and responsibility, with moments when a single bullet could save lives or change history. She was ready for whatever came next. Her hands were steady, her aim was true, and her heart was in the right place. For a sniper, that was everything that mattered.